Why? All right. Good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson of the Ringer Hire Show. Hey, tonight here I'm with my great colleague Matt Lunny, and he's over in Florida. How's it going, Matt?
Dave, I'm doing great. How are you today, sir?
Hey, ready to talk about AI for recruiting. So this ought to be interesting.
Yes, sir. A couple of guys talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, right. All right, everybody. We'll be right back after this video. Hey, Matt, I was thinking about AI. I could probably eventually just do a show myself and not even be here.
They've done that. They've done Joe Rogan podcast with using his voice.
Yep.
And subject matters in the way he talks about things, and they've done it. I listened to part of it.
Hey, tonight, everybody, I invited Matt on. This topic with AI for in the recruiting industry, I got to tell you, it's happened so fast. For years prior to COVID and during COVID, I would always talk about it. I always say, hey, it's coming, and nothing would ever happen. It seems now that's all everybody's discussing, AI, and for staffing. I mean, it came so fast. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in it as long as you, but it definitely kind of crept up. We've had some sort of AI with every company I've worked with, whether it's software with resume matching or something along those lines. But I think with this Chat GPT, the whole idea of it just blew up, and I've become guilty even before we discussed this show of playing with it and saying like, "Hey, type me a proposal email for X," and I adjust a couple lines, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. I don't even have to use my Grammarly.
I know, I agree. And hey, we got Bill here in Pittsburgh. Hey, Bill, how's it going? Yeah, he's ready. And Bill, I bet AI to you is probably the same as myself. The way I look at it, I'll take a little heat for this. I know somebody will message me about it. Is I've learned, listen, it's coming. It's not going away. You got two choices, really. You're either going to embrace it or you're going to just ignore it and everybody else is going to excel above you. That's my opinion. You're going to have no choice, I feel, to compete with everything. I mean, Matt, I just watched last week on LinkedIn, I saw a video. You can set up a video now of an avatar. You design the avatar or pick from a group of photos what you want, and they will interview you. So you're getting interviewed by an AI avatar.
Yeah, I've seen that almost a year ago, and it was almost creepy. There's a website that I'm not going to put them on blast, but every time I visit it, because being in staffing, we sell our services to companies.
Right.
So I sign up for a bunch of different job websites to see, hey, what companies are hiring, and reach out like, hey, can I support your business? There's a company that every time I go to their website, within an hour, I get a call, and it says, hey, because you have to sign into the site. You can't just go rush jobs. And it's like, it's an automated call, and it listens to my answers before it replies. And then after about 4 questions, a human will come on.
See, that's the thing, right? That's what it's missing, some of it with recruiting. And I did a lot of research on that too, how it's saying naturally it's missing that human touch. It does. But I also was reading that eventually it's going to learn about you, about yourself. When you're utilizing it, it's actually creating. So you're usually, I mean, you're normal. I want to back this up. You're actually just learning from yourself as everything you talk about, everything that is just going to dig more information, more information, and information.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can type a short, quick email to somebody in about 10 keystrokes now.
Yeah.
If it's like, hey, thanks for your application. Is there a good time to set up a call? I just left you a voice message. Email me back what works best for you. And I can literally start typing it out, and Outlook knows what I'm going to type because I've typed that out so many times to people that it knows what's coming next. And it's, I would say, 75-80% of the time, pretty on point.
Right. I wanted to ask you, I don't know, let me just think of that. What generation do you think that's going to be more acceptable to the AI in the recruiting industry? Are you talking like the younger, when I say younger, in the 20s, 30s, 40s? How do you think? All right, I don't care. I tell everybody I'm 56, but you have to learn. You can't stop learning.
Correct. And I think there's some great things that AI has to offer. Some of the things that I've seen are with, somebody sending me like basically their chat bot in LinkedIn, and then asking me a couple questions, and then asking me and sending me a link to their calendar to book a call with them. So if you can do that instead of for 10 candidates in an hour, 50 to 60 of them, you can book your whole week out in a Monday morning,
That's what I mean.
With scheduled calls and things like that. So there's definitely some positives with it, but you definitely have to embrace it. And I think there's also the overuse of it. I don't want an avatar to interview somebody. I want to see reactions. I want to see thought process. And there's human intangibles that I'm sure a computer can pick up on the subtleties of it.
Right.
But to learn every individual and be able to read them when you're either face to face or on a video is kind of, it's going to take, I think, a lot more technology to do.
Well, this here, and the CFO, the co-founder, might chime in. He said if he's up, he's from India, and he said he might be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And it's called a company called Veto Hire. And I'm going to show a video here in a minute and how it works. So they came up with a genius idea. And it's kind of like, you go to the site, vetohire.com, and I'll show you. You put all your information, your resume you upload. You do a 1-minute video or something like that on there that you put on there. You do all your skills. You're actually just building it's like a LinkedIn profile in a way. You're building all of that about yourself. So now it doesn't cost nothing for either one of us. And I put my name on there in video because I wanted to see. I have to do the video yet. So what that company's going to do, it's a genius idea. So now I'm like, all right, well, how do you make money? The companies are going to go ahead to pay a fee to have access to this software that's going to have all these candidates in. So
the
like
database, basically.
Yeah. So if you're looking for an accountant, you're looking for something like that, you'll be able to look in. It's actually just going to be a huge database in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're paying for a database. So that's friggin' awesome idea.
A lot of the back end on a lot of the other job.com websites is the use of it is free. It's to get when you look over a resume, I can browse resumes all day. It's to get the contact information I pay for.
That's exactly what you're paying for.
They basically, it looks like a CIA file. It's like, hey, here's their skills and everything, but they redact like company names, individual names, numbers, and emails, so that you're like, hey, this person looks good. And then you pay, depending on whether you pay for a subscription and get X amount a month, or if you pay by resume and you pay for it. So that kind of seems like that might be a good angle for them.
Yeah.
But also like just selling it as a service. Just
it is
if you're a big enough company. If you're one of the,
I like it. I like the concept, and I'm going to show a video here about a minute of it, everybody. So I'm going to show about a minute of it, and then we're going to discuss it. You're going to see this. Here we go. vetohire.com. right there, you're creating. I'm going to go right back to it. You're creating your account. Here we go. So what you saw there is the candidate goes on there, puts all the information. I liked it because the candidate has a portal of how many interviews he's had. If you saw that up in the corner, it shows all that, like even feedback if the employer gives that. Then after he's all done with that person, then the company you saw as a recruiter would sign in. So, and it's AI. He's saying it's utilizing AI. So I think that I'm not sure how it's reaching for AI. I don't know. I don't understand that part. Do you, in a way?
So I'm going to assume because I watched the video that you had tagged me in.
Right.
I'm going to assume in profiles it's going to take certain words that you say that match a job. And this is where and I've worked with some of the big softwares, Salesforce, Workday, Bullhorn, NVIDIA,
Right.
and among others, including LinkedIn. And I type in specific words. I could type in a Boolean of like, hey, this is what I'm looking for specifically on a resume.
Right.
But say, accounting, we use Excel all the time. It's one of the biggest, software platforms that every single company will use in some way, shape, or form.
In that part.
I get every accountant tells me they're advanced in Excel. And then if you put advanced Excel on a resume, that sounds great. But what's advanced to you and what's advanced to, a company I might be hiring for? Are you looking
Right.
for, VLOOKUPs and pivot tables, or are you looking for nested if and then statements? And then asking them to walk you through it.
Right.
Of how to do it, which the pivot tables and lookups are pretty easy. But then when you get to the nested if and then statements, it's a little bit more complex.
Right.
And that's when I would see like an advanced person. If you could walk me through that,
Yeah.
and more like an intermediate person.
I just think any new ideas that I like that concept of it. I really do.
Yeah.
I wish them luck. I think they'll be successful because it's something new. When you're coming out with something new, in staffing, I think it takes it takes more and more people to start that and start talking about it and having that conversation before another company will say, hey, we should research that, look into it.
Yep.
One of the biggest things that I learned from it doing all this is, when AI is doing a search, like let's take resumes for an example. So it's going to parse your resumes. If you could have 200 resumes come in on one day, and the AI software is going to just pull out your best people. It's going to say A's and B's. All right. And the way I look at that is like, okay, that's a great idea. I get it. I really do. I think that if you do your resume correctly, and that's where I wanted to ask you, it's going to come down to where you really have to optimize or have somebody look over that resume. Or, eventually you're going to have to.
Yes. So they all are.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying when it comes down to it, but and I know me and you have this.
Yep.
I know me and you always have the discussion about the resume services, and I think there's a place in the world for them. And I actually watched a video from somebody that does them, and she had made a lot of good points. I wish I could give her credit. I do not remember her name, but it's somebody I'm connected with. Of examples of hey, this is exactly how to write a resume in order to attract people. But when it comes to certain things, you don't, as long as they're within one of your bullet points, like whether it's the software you use or your day-to-day responsibilities um, aren't going to change. So,
Right.
and unless you're just have a horrible resume, uh, then I think AI will be able to pick it up. And even LinkedIn, when I put up a job posting with their recruiter, um, if somebody lists all their skills and they literally, I don't even put it in there. They'll draw
Right.
from words I used in the job description. You put the best resumes in front of me first, and it does that
And
all
that
for me automatically. Now I can change it to date applied, to alphabetical, but it'll say
I
most
was even
relevant.
messing around. I was even messing around. I had created a resume for myself by using AI with the chat. I said, "Make me a resume."
Did
It
you?
made me a resume. I told him what I did. Yeah, and it literally brought everything out. Basic format and everything for what I do is for a living. And you put, and it made the resume not the best. It's gonna long. It's got. I'm sure have a long way to go. But I was like, that that's friggin' insane. So my point to the next question to you is when it's going to parse the resumes for you a lot quicker. You're going to be able to, get those A's and B's in front of you, but to eliminate bias. So it's not going to say like male, female, let's just say gender.
No.
They even said which college, because a lot of the companies that put jobs out, they won't accept for a bias of certain people that went to certain schools. That can be either incorporated or taken out, whatever you do. But right there, that's amazing to me. I don't know.
Well, so one of the things you can't hire and judge people on is age,
Correct.
but all every softwares that I've ever worked with has a graduation range. So if I'm looking for
Right.
a senior accountant, that's we like that's somebody that's kind of a fast track person that wants to like climb that corporate ladder.
Right.
You're looking at like 4 to 6 years of experience. If they've been doing it more than 6 years at a staff level, they're kind of at a slower pace. And if so I can put in graduation dates of basically 2018 to 2016.
Oh, you'll be able to ask that. You're right.
Oh yeah, it's already there. It's been there.
It's
I
there.
can
Yeah.
literally put
Wow.
it in. Now the thing that throws it off is master's degree or certificates, or if you go back to school to get a secondary degree. But as far as like a
There has
basic,
to be some kind of safe for companies, isn't there? Like I'm sure there's some kind of, like, you wouldn't really want. I can't even imagine saying, "Hey, send me a candidate that has experience, graduated." But I guess you could. But the companies are really going to have to take a hold of this and learn the legal aspects of it, right?
well,
I mean,
so they're yes and no. They're just looking for somebody at a certain point in their career. So I'm sure they've figured out legal ways to, hey, we're not basing this based on somebody's age or anything like
yeah,
that. We're looking at their career and saying, where are you at in your career? How long have you been doing this? You can even put like, hey, somebody needs a minimum of 5 years of experience,
right,
and you can put that in as a parameter, like at least 5 years. Um, there's so many you can if you're looking for somebody if I'm looking for a plant accountant, I could put in manufacturing background, because
right.
most people would be in manufacturing if they're
Yeah,
coming
it's
from
going to bring it
anywhere.
up. Yeah,
I could put, if somebody's going to work for a fintech company, I could put finance institutions, banks, and it'll only pull people that have banking establishments on their resumes.
so I really do see how that's going to speed up the process. I really do, and I believe that it could be to some people's benefits, because if they're not, again, I'm going to keep going back to that. I just feel like I'm going to go back to the resume. If it doesn't have those right words, if it doesn't have that right software, I think you're really going to have to make sure that's in there to make sure you get pulled.
We'll have a funny story on that one.
Yeah, and it just to put those words in there, get those candidates from you. Like, I'm going to give you an example. The one day I had 186 applicants, and I'm like, oh my God, my finger was getting sore, because I do look at them. I have to. I look at them. I look at click. Oh, man, that person didn't even read the description. There was no qualifications. yeah, at all. And I was like, what is this? And again, we talked about that easy apply, all that stuff. That I think hurts me sometimes because people just click on it and just
Yeah.
click. Oh, guess who we got in the house?
Danny. Oh, Steven.
Mr. Steven. And Steven, I was going to talk about him. And Matt, I'm going to give you a little story about a guy named Steven. I won't put his name up there. I shouldn't say it. Steven loves AI. Steven, one of the big, and he didn't answer my call today, which, he texted me while I was talking to you before, and he said I can call tomorrow because he's got friggin' AI down to a T. And I can tell his social media postings, everything. I said, aha, that's friggin' AI. And because AI, like, great paragraphs. Like you said, write me an email.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It does some pretty cool stuff. I've been playing with it a lot more since we talked about doing the show on AI. So I've definitely looked into it, and it's there's definitely some cool stuff. And I knew we were talking about this before.
Yeah.
As far as like the softwares and matching. And this is where I think the personal touch of it and aspect of it comes in. So in accounting, there's Oracle software.
Right.
Well, Oracle owns 90 million softwares. So that's when you kind of have to dig in and like, hey, which Oracle product have you used?
Right.
And what functions of it within there have you used? Are you doing reporting with it? Or are you just doing general ledger accounting? And that's where I think the human aspect will never really be replaced when it comes to recruiting.
Yep.
But, if I'm looking at two accountants for a role and one has QuickBooks or NetSuite,
right,
they probably worked for a small company and they probably never used any of there's about 5 large softwares in accounting, and then there's 100 different niche softwares. And then there's QuickBooks that every mom and pop's place pretty much uses.
But do you feel that, oh, Steve, AI has replaced me? I use it for everything, and he does.
Well,
I can't wait to talk to them.
That's the thing that you got to remember about AI. You have to drive it.
Yeah, I've been using all the free versions on my phone. I download all the apps, take the 3-day trial, and then I try it, and I'm like, this stuff. I had to, like, you talked about emails before this, and I said, write me an email on an invitation to the Ring of Hire show, and it's about staffing and what I do. So as I changed the questions, I had 6 different ones to choose from, right? They're friggin' standing. But my only concern is when people use this. I love it because it makes me look friggin' smart as hell. What happens when you get called? You're going to get called out on that sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it writes so well that it's not, I use Grammarly. I use it a lot.
I do too.
I love Grammarly. I pay for the yearly subscription. I love it. And it teaches me because I use it to learn, and I'm getting better and better because I'm like, oh yeah, after the word "and," you always put an apostrophe. It took me for friggin' years only. But my point there is you're utilizing that. Could I write that the way I wrote that email? No, I couldn't. Yeah, he's spending $300 a month.
You get the return on it, it's worth it. Yeah, when it comes to that, well, first off, the comma with the "and" thing is a very big debate in my world. Grammarly always puts it there. Growing up, we never used it. And I even have friends of mine that are teachers. They're like, no, we don't do it that way. That's more of a proper English than, American English.
Right.
But I've tried just, as far as, pitching our services to different companies with cold call emails, warm emails. I've tried different styles. I've worked with different salespeople. I've looked online for good examples.
Right.
And even when you do AI, it's like, hey, what format really stands out to you as a person? Because that's what I feel more comfortable on receiving.
Yeah.
I'm one of those ones that wants like header, 3-line intro, maybe 2-line closing, keep it moving.
Yep.
AI will do some like that, but then it'll do some with these big block paragraphs.
Right.
Now, when it's a cold call email, I'm not reading
That's
paragraphs.
what I mean. That's what I mean.
I'm not reading those
Yeah, I've been
paragraphs.
using AI every day since January, and he has. And one of the things with what I noticed with for emails is, so you'll send that email. I really liked it. I loved it. So the other part that I liked watching it, and I started to mess around with it, and my video turned out to be a female saying, "Hi, my name is David Wilson of the company I work for." And I'm like, "Okay, I was wrong there. Let me give you a try." I'm going to save that. I'm going to play it for you next time as a blooper. I have it saved because it was like this was my first go around. So you can actually on orientation. So the software broke it down to 4 to 5 different things. So when that email goes out to you with all these with a video of an avatar talking to you, explaining to you what to expect on your first day from the time you arrive to the end of your first day, and it had every single thing. Next part about even a lunch break. It told now it's time to take lunch. it would say, and I looked at that and I said, okay, I thought that was pretty good for maybe for I guess different fields it's going to work for. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you're a different niche than some other people in different fields like engineering, medical. How's that going to work in those fields? But there again, for orientation process, I was like, okay, I kind of liked it, and if anybody doesn't have an idea,
And I know we kind of talked about it, before we started the show. I definitely can see from an onboarding perspective
yeah.
being huge, or even, background checks, stuff along those
Yeah, I
lines.
want you to talk about that because that was here right here. I have it right here and I want to show you because I know it came up here and you brought it up. So it was saying utilizing AI for right here, AI powered background checks. I so what's that doing is you're not going to utilize you're still going to utilize a background check company, but you're just going to automatically have it run.
Well, no, because you have to have permission to run it,
Right.
at least
That's what I
in the
thought.
state of
Yeah.
Florida. I just, I think with the possibilities of it is instead of somebody sitting there doing a search,
Right.
um,
Makes sense. I know
on
what you're saying.
something and checking all the boxes, AI can do that for them. And then if there's a red flag or a question, then you can kind of bring it up and be like, hey, what's this about? Or hey, I need more information here. Or if hey, John Smith, and now you have 1,000 different John Smiths there.
Then that makes sense
You
because here
know,
it says, while background checking may seem formality, the reality is that regulations tend to evolve almost constantly. So that makes sense that the laws vary from one country and roll to another. I get that. It says the benefits of using AI infused checking technology include reduced bias. I don't understand the bias for your background check besides telling them what you're checking for. A simpler, faster, more efficient process. So I'm curious, is there something coming out that you utilize, because if you're using First Advantage or all these other different companies, what is the AI powered background actually for? I still don't get that unless you're doing your own search, maybe like a smaller companies. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
As
I
far
don't I
as
don't
the
understand it.
bias part of it, generally you don't run a background until after you make an offer. So I don't know where the bias
Right.
would be in the hiring process. So that part doesn't really make a lot to me. Um, if they use it in the recruiting process, like you were saying, with certain schools and universities not being as well sought after as others, and
Right.
I think we know kind of the online ones that we see a lot of them see, and a lot of people kind of discredit. Um, but when it comes to that, they should already have a job when they're doing the background check. I just assumed it would make it more streamlined, but I can even see them using like an AI assistant when you're
Right.
doing the onboarding. If you get stuck somewhere and then have 30, frequently asked questions where they can walk you through it with a video or something. And then if you get stuck, and I've had it a ton of times where um, when somebody was filling out paperwork for a company and they do it on this, which is great. Smartphones are awesome, but there's certain software when it comes to like an e-sign, it wouldn't let you do it. So you got 99% of the paperwork done, and they're like, I finished it. I don't know why it's saying it's incomplete. And it's like, oh, your cell phone won't let you e-sign it. So you have to log into a computer. I had that with an old company of mine. They'd be like, everything's done, I swear. And then they would just come into, this is when I worked in the restaurant business, they would just come into the restaurant and we'd hand them the laptop. They'd log back in and then e-sign, and then they were done.
Matt, I swear you're reading my notes, because AI for internal mobility for my phones. You might be reading the same notes that I am, because I'm like, how did you just?
Well, I told you, I Googled AI and recruiting, and in 0.53 seconds, 63 million articles came up, and then I just started watching videos.
Yeah, because it was saying that that's where you can lose in this day and time. It's like saying, why can it not be user friendly on a phone? All of it. Because you're going to lose people, because a lot of the newer generation don't have the laptops. They don't have a laptop. They might have to go to a friend's house or somewhere. But I was like, man, you're reading right off this. That was pretty good. My next thing is...
I got my notes too.
You got yours? I'm like, geez. The next one was, this one scares the living hell out of me. I'm sorry. Automated reference checking. Automated. So it's saying, for time-consuming, background checking, collecting various reliable references can be a rather time-consuming task. So it's saying there are challenges of it, because it's a manual reference check process, or the reliability of both the person given the reference and the review itself, but more practical issues too. People might not pick up, and I'm sorry, I just don't get it. I mean, it's coming.
When it comes to references, are you giving me a reference as somebody that doesn't like you?
I know. I say the same thing.
Now if there's a technical skill and they weren't able to explain it to me, then I might be like, hey, let me check the reference and see what their day-to-day was to see if it matches up. But then, and it was something that I do have on my notes, and I might beat you the jump is,
right.
You've made an auto resume. You know how many fake resumes we get from, people that are looking for jobs, and then when you talk to them, and they have absolutely, and I'm like, where did you get this resume? And it's just like, it's a pristine resume.
Right.
It matches everything that we're looking for. However, like, you couldn't, walk me through the simplest procedures that any accountant would know or any finance person would know.
Right. But would you answer calls from, because they have, I was blown away for that. I mean, you can choose the voice you want. I was messing around. You can choose the voice. You can choose the accent. You can choose the nationality, whatever you want, to be able to speak the way you want this thing to speak to. So if you get a call asking you for your reference from an automatic or an AI generated avatar, can you just imagine? I can't even imagine it, but it's going to know what you said.
I'm hanging up on it, honestly. Like, if occasionally, just for entertainment value, when I get some of those automated ones, I'll see what they're trying to sell me.
Right.
But a lot of times it's like, if you're going to do something, do it right. Now, if I could see a benefit where it's like, this is also a stretch where it's like, hey, Susie asked me to be a reference for her. And then I've seen it where you schedule a time, but it's to call into a person. They use a party. But if somebody uses you as a reference and then it just goes to AI, I could kind of see that. Like, when you get like a restaurant survey on the bottom of a ticket, and it's like, how was your service here? Press 1. Was your food hot?
Yeah, you do that anyway when you're calling in. You're right for that part.
Yeah, but then you're calling in. But if somebody called me with like an electronic voice saying, hello, I am here for a reference check for Susie, I'd be like,
but Matt, the way I talk about that is, it's coming. It's we're gonna have a lot of us, like you said, am I even gonna listen to it 10 years from now, or are we gonna have a conversation of saying, hey, David, hey, yeah, did you get the call from? I mean, it's just gonna be normal. I don't know. I get the part here where it talks about a better experience for candidates. I get that. Like, you could, depending on the field, again, it always depends. But for like high volume recruiting, I could see the really benefit to do that, because reduced time to hire, cost effective hiring, automatic, the tedious manual tasks, basically, that you can get away with. I
Yeah.
mean, we've done the chat bots. I think you've done that probably.
Yeah, and I've seen the automated interviews, but I've never seen it with AI and an avatar. But it's basically like I pre-record 8 questions,
Right.
and then you go into a room and then you answer those questions, and then I mean I'm sure AI could probably review your answers for me.
Yeah.
I never
Looking
got
for the
that
key.
far into it. It's usually with another company when we had a big ramp up, and there it was generally for somebody that was hiring for a remote role for customer service or data
Right.
entry, and we used to pre-record some things and then just wait for videos to roll in, and then but then if they were good, we'd still call them up and just kind of lock them down on it, because you still at the end of the day, I feel you're going to need a human touch, and
I'm going to keep working on you with AI, because I can tell you're on that border. You can tell you're
I'm
like
not
myself.
sure. I
You're
think
not.
there's great applications of it, but I also think
Yeah.
it's not gonna. I still think there needs to be a human aspect of it.
Well, one of it says can be an off-putting for candidates, and that's what you're talking about. It can be. I could see top talent might be put off by the lack of human touch. Screening interviews are being done in some instances by software instead of humans, just like you're saying, resulting in low metrics, missed opportunities. It puts people off. It's like, oh, I'm not answering this. I'm not answering this. But if you really want that job and that's what they're utilizing, that's where I think you just make that decision of saying, okay, all right, Dave, do I want to go through with this? Do I want this job? This is what they're using. I'm going to have to. But it comes down to that human touch. They can't talk about your body language here, everything. You know what I mean? Like, when you ask interview questions, I know where you're coming from there. And I agree. I think at the end of the day, it's got to come back to a human. There's no other way. I mean, it's got to come back to you or myself or to speak to the person.
Yeah, and I've actually had people tell me that they were intimidated in an interview, because it was a panel interview or because the questions were so direct and things like
Right.
that. It's like, well, 90% of the jobs you have to communicate. So I want to see how you can communicate and not talk to
I like
computers.
that makes sense, because even here it says with that, your tone, personality, soft skills, lacks of gut instinct, and that's what you're talking about there. I can see, because how do you know the personality of a person? How do you know on that interview process? Again, for what you do in accounting and all that, I can't even imagine. I mean, I could just picture an avatar giving you equations and tests and running tests for you and taking care of that whole process.
Yeah. And some of the roles that we do when it comes to like more financial analysis and stuff like that, companies do have projects, basically just like a quick, like, hey, this will probably take you 2 to 3 hours. Like, here's these data sets, and can you organize it like this and let us know your findings? And it's not uncommon for that. So if they put that at the forefront of the interview process and automated it based on pulling an application, was everything on their resume at least at minimum what you're looking for, and then like, hey, let's do this instead of doing like 2 rounds of interview, then let's present.
And I get that. And even says here, won't evaluate judgment and decision making skills. All these are the things that are coming back to recruiters.
Yeah.
Even soft skills. I get it. It's just, I think, either we're going to get aboard or we're not. I think it comes down to the industry. We're just in the beginning phases of it. I mean, all these apps and, can I write an email like that? Can I create a story? I even had it write a song to my wife about our life. Yeah, you can write a song, and it wrote a song and it played music, and it put the words that I put in there. It's insane. Tell me a story.
Yeah, I saw one that was somebody did an example of write a newspaper article in New York Times format, discussing the differences between X and Y, and focus on these 3 points, and literally in like 8 seconds there was an article written, and then they're like, oh, let's look at a new one, and then it literally gave them a new one another 10 seconds later.
That is, and I don't know, but geez, we hit 40 minutes. I want to thank you as always. I think it's always great talking with you.
Yeah, man, we always have a good time on here.
Yeah, this subject here, again, I always say I never get to. I do all that work of so many different things, but this is just like an ongoing show, and the new things that are coming out. I just tell people, listen, my AI for recruiting is, I'm in for it. I'm in for a new challenge. I'm in for trying new things, but at the same time, I believe what you've said. You got to have that human connection at the end of something. It can't walk you through the whole thing, I'm going to say, but that's my note on that. I mean, and you want to give your final input there?
Yeah, my final thing is actually just kind of popped in my head because I always have my notes, but I also think on the fly. I had a friend of mine, and I asked him how he came up with an idea, and he said, "There's the shark."
The shark! Oh my God! Drop the mic! Drop this friggin' mic! There is the shark, Richard Rosner. Oh my God! I tell you what, I just lost my words, man. There's the shark.
But he basically said anything that takes too much time off your hand that you could take off your plate, do it. Now, he was doing it with a personal assistant, and I don't have, a personal assistant. But I was like, what can I take off the table that's still not going to lose my personal touch when it comes to recruiting, but can, it's going to take time on the front end, I think, learning the AI and also putting what you have in place. You can't just be like, hey, I do my job for me. You have to give it parameters. You have to let it know what you want to do. But if I can get it to where it benefits me, to where I can, automatically schedule candidates without having to.
You're turning. I like that. You change. There you go.
There's things with AI that I like, and I think it's been around a lot longer. I think the whole chat GPT, kind of brought it to the forefront, but there's things that I like about it. I mean, it's one of the AI that I use when I search for resumes. Through, it's when I'm looking for specific skill sets, or some companies come to me and be like, hey, I work for a quarter flipping business, and I want to find a guy that flips quarters just like I do. But basically I go look for him for you and steal him from the company next door.
I wonder how the shark's going to use it. I wonder how the shark's going to use AI. He'll have a generated shark. I can picture him.
Yeah, it's coming at you.
That's going to do that. But no, I appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming on, Richard. It's always good to see you, and Steve and everybody. Bill, Richard said he's going to do a show one day. We got to get him on with you here. He's freaking wound up all the time. Gary V on steroids, Richard is. But again, Matt, thanks. We've hit that 45 minutes, and that's awesome. And it's always great talking with you, and I'll talk to you after this. So we shall see you again. Let's see if I got. Always got to find this video again. Yep. Talk to you soon.